that works.
All right, we'll reconvene the Board of Equalization for the Thursday, April 19th, 2018 hearings. I just remind everybody when they speak, please come up to the mics, recognize yourself, and
Okay, I'm Gordon Wendell. I'm the deputy director. Filling in for Shannon here today. We're just gonna be doing the wall stuff today, and I don't know how many we're gonna have in yet. We're kind of checking them off on the list as we go, and then as they come in, we're putting them in order, so the first guy here isn't the last one to get talked to.
okay, Bob?
I've got a couple lists. We've got the no change list and we got a STIP list. I would like to act on those after we're done because we don't know who all's coming in.
Okay,
Once we do that, once we find out who's coming in and we talk to everybody, then we can make a motion on the list with the exception of those that came in. That'll work.
okay.
I'm gonna get the list from Joe and we'll go ahead and get started then.
Did you read this email about how many students and how much money from the county? Yeah.
Yeah, those are those STIPs.
I don't know.
Okay, the first one we have today is Bruce Dunker. So Bruce, you can come up and Rebecca, you can go ahead over here.
Hold on just a sec. Where's his name at?
Not on the list.
Gordon?
A stipulation list.
What's his last name?
Dunker.
Dunker. Sorry,
Oh,
it's
okay.
something else. Sorry, Bruce.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, Dunker, okay.
Okay. Go ahead, Bruce.
Hi. I guess I'm just kind of a little thrown off by the evaluation, I guess, that you guys gave us on our house. It was before, it was at 60-some thousand before. And now you got it. You're at 102 now.
Okay, Bruce.
And I don't quite understand why.
Okay. We'll let the Board of Equalization, or please
Hi.
identify.
I'm Rebecca Spray.
Rebecca.
I'm an appraiser with our Equalization Department for the county. And, well, just from the get-go, the initial assessment was a land value of $15,600 with a structure value of $110,800. The Wall Local Board modified that to land value remain the same at $15,600 and the building down to $46,900, a total of $62,500. Ann and I went on site and they allowed us to do a interior inspection, and we tried to review the process with them, and I did make corrections to the property, and I recommend a revised value of $98,500. So land value remains at $15,600. The revised structure value $82,900.
Okay, so the local board reduced it down to structure 46.9,
Correct.
Correct.
And your original one was 110 for structure and is now down, you're recommending 98.5
As a total value,
nine
correct?
for the structure. And you kept the land the same.
Correct.
Okay. Is there any,
And the square footage of my house is very small. I have no basement. I mean, it's a 1,400 square foot house. And if you compare it to other values on that street, there's a house on that same street, which is way newer than mine. Mine was built in 1907. Okay. And I have no basement, just a crawl space. And there's a house just down the street. And you have their structure at 87.6, and theirs is twice as big as mine and probably 50 years newer than mine. And theirs is all redone, everything. And I don't know how she come up with the value of the inside of our house, because all she did was walked into our living room and turned around and walked out. She never looked at the bedrooms, never looked at the bathrooms, nothing. So I don't know how you could come up with a value of that when she never looked at nothing.
Rebecca, could you show us some of your comparables, what you used?
Yes, that would be up here on the screen. We did do a walkthrough of the interior. We tried to address what we could. I don't like to push my way with the homeowner, so whatever they're willing to show me at the time is what I'm happy to see. The first sale occurred August 22nd, 2017, sold at $140,000. With adjustments to make it comparable to his property as we use most recent sales.
Can I ask a question, Jessica? Are these
Yes.
in wall?
Correct,
Thank you.
Yeah.
All the comparables are in wall.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
The adjusted sale price would be $90,231. The second comparable on Lariat Drive sold in July on the 1st, 2016 for $229,000, making adjustments so it will be comparable. We have $151,837. September 6, 2017, a property on Dorothy Street sold $187,500. After making revisions, so it's comparable, we have $107,953. And I can continue on through the other two if you like, or if that's sufficient.
How can you compare, though, the sale of houses that are brand new? Lariat Drive, that's a new division in town. I mean, that's outside of town. I mean, it's out south of town. That's all them are all new houses. How can you compare that to
Chris,
a house that was built in 1907?
can you pull down the comparables on the land and the structures and those out? Thank you.
As she said, she makes adjustments and take those off when they do their comparables. The house that he's referencing that he thinks says is cheaper, can we look at that one?
I'm sorry,
That's at 80,000. Was that, which one, do you know the address, Robert?
What's that?
You know the address that you just referenced?
810 Dorothy Street, the third comparable, sold September 6, 2017 for $187,500. When we make adjustments for things like age and deterioration, characteristic square foot area, that revised sale price is reflected as $107,953.
Okay.
How many square foot is that house?
Well, it is making adjustments for the square foot area, but that is 2,239.
Yeah.
Actually, if you look up there, yours is with the land being comparable, but your structure is the least amount up there on the comparables, pretty much.
Is there any other questions? from
Well,
the
yeah, it
board?
should be. It's built in 1907.
Yeah.
Can't compare it to a brand new house.
Have you ever remodeled anything in your house since 1907?
I put a new roof on my house. That's it. That's all I've done to it. I don't,
You haven't
No.
remodeled the kitchen, the bathrooms
No.
ever?
no.
And we are taking that into account in looking at depreciation.
Thank you.
Does anybody on the rest of the commissioners have any questions?
It appears by the comparables anyway that it's in line. We did drop it after the initial assessment by better than $20,000. So it seems if we look at the comparables, and that's really all we can consider, is that it's right in line where it should be.
So board, what I'd look for is, I think we have two options. The local board, they adjusted down to 46.9 for the structure, kept the land the same at 15.6. And the equalization, Jessica and them readjusted theirs from, kept the land the same and actually went down from the original to 82.9, which makes it a total of 98.5. So I believe we have two recommendations. I'd look for a motion on one of the two.
Mr. Chairman, would I be able to address something quick on behalf of the local board too? They were gonna let me come up here to begin, and I got some properties too, but as being the mayor and all, I might have some insight as well. I don't want Bruce to be the first one to go and kind of take the hit. If you allow me, just a quick minute or.
Be fine.
The board, are you,
I don't have a problem with it.
Yes, I fully, but I wanted to ask why the local board did what they did, so,
okay.
I mean, that was. I mean,
Sure,
my-
please come up and recognize yourself and address.
Marty Heather, and I'm the mayor down in Wall. So we maybe, I would like to maybe back up to the previous year. What we've seen at the local level in Wall last year was a significant increase across the board. I mean, most properties, 70-80%. We had some properties, 130, 140% increase. Now, the feedback we got from the assessor's office was they hadn't basically paid attention to Wall too long, and things were very undervalued. And at the same token, and I appreciate the effort this year, especially of several people coming out in that office and trying to meet with homeowners. Met with Shannon last year too, and he mentioned one of the ways they do that is market value cost, and they have a computer program that's very accurate. So my question was, if it's so accurate, how would we get so far off? And so last year, the local board took quite a hit from the community, and we should have, but we, on average, raised at minimum 20% for those that came in to appeal their tax increase of 70, 80, 120%. Some went up 40, 50%. So the community took a pretty good hit across the board last year. This year, those values all went right back up, not only to what they were last year in most cases, but even another additional % or two above. And so what we, as the local board, decided to do was, what we felt was fair and equitable was to go back to what we did last year and add another 3 to 4%. And so within 2 years, you've seen those percentages, they went up quite a bit. And I get it that, yeah, it's not about, you have to look at the value of the home. One of the things I might recommend, and I know it's a tough job, but I would really strongly recommend they work with and discuss some of this with some of the local realtors too. Wall is a very tough community of only 800 people, a few hundred houses to get really good comparables. Now, if we had 100 sales a year or 50, whatever you're getting rapid, I don't have a problem. But Bruce is right. When you take a home on Creighton Road, it may not have the infrastructure and is a very busy, the traffic pattern is terrible versus a home that's out on a nice subdivision, much newer house. That's a tough one to compare, really tough. And I like I said, I know it's a difficult job and a difficult process, but comparables in Wall are tough. You start lining up like this, they're all over the town. And we've got a lot of houses that they sit there for a long time. Sometimes they probably overpay for them and they buy them because there's not very many available at any given time. And whether that's a factor or not, you might say that's the way it is, but that is the way it is. And I just want to give that background, kind of the why we did that at the local level too. We've, especially with cost of living being very flat last few years, we truly feel that's fair on these properties we sent up.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you.
Do we have, sorry,
Uh,
this first.
let- Ms. Hadcock, and then I'll go ahead.
Sorry, do we have last year's evaluation on this property?
That,
What was the land in the property last year?
I don't have the initial for last year, but at the time of, it was published for this year, the assessment was 126,400. When the board changed it, the local board changed it the year prior for the 2017 assessment. It was 61,300. This year, the board revised it to 62,500.
So Bruce, what'd you pay on taxes last year? Was it the 61 or the 126, or what did you pay?
No, on the 60. It was on the 60, not on the
Assessed you,
1.6.
last year and collected on 60,000.
Correct.
This board did. Pennington County collected 60,000.
Correct.
Okay. So the land was probably still 15 and the rest was,
Yes,
okay.
yes. Yeah, because they tried to do that last year and we had to get it knocked back down. They knocked it back down last year. But now this year, they're trying to jump it right back up again to the same as what they tried last year.
Are you done, Deb?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr.
Sorry.
Farabee?
I'd like to ask the mayor a question or two.
Yes, sir.
How many folks were on your board and who'd they represent? All city council or?
All city council, yes, and one school board member.
Okay. And five, how many members?
Oh, I know we had 3 nights of appeals. We had 140 appeals in the little town of Wall. So we had 3 nights, and I actually wasn't able to be there one night, so we had a mix, but we at least had a quorum every night of, I believe it was of 7, so we at least had 4 or 5 members there every night.
And the school board was represented along
The board
with
was
the city
represented as well,
council.
yes.
Thank you.
You bet.
Follow-up question to Mr. Farabee. Did you have any realtors on your board?
We do not. We don't have any realtors actually live in Wall.
I just wanted to know if we had somebody,
Sure.
if you had somebody that had some real estate experience that was on that board.
And that's a good point. Maybe next year Jim Hogue is one has had several properties in Wall for years, and that's why I mentioned that some of the realtors that have been working down there in that environment can maybe lend some insight, and including to us probably. That's a good point.
Thank you, Marty.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. DeSanto.
I am pretty familiar with the Wall area, and Lynn has done some work there with properties, selling properties and looking for properties. And I would agree with Marty that the houses can change dramatically from one street to the next. And also in that it's very spotty where houses have been upgraded and where houses haven't. I mean, you can have one house on a street that's been totally redone inside and out, and the next one next door hasn't been touched in years. And so I would agree with him that assessing in that area is probably pretty difficult. And the Lariat Drive property is in a brand spanking new neighborhood, and I think it's pretty close to the golf course too.
Yep. It is.
And so that makes
Well, and same way with Dorothy Street and Husted Street. I mean, them 2 streets is totally different than my street. I mean,
it makes a huge difference as far as exactly where you are in Wall. So, but I also, on the other hand, looking at 62.5, I know that the few properties that Lynn has sold, one of those houses, I believe, was very comparable. And I think, I can't remember, so I'm not going to make a quote, but I know it wasn't 62.5. I think it was in the low 80s, is what she sold it for. 85.7, I think, if I remember correctly. But anyway, I would say that the 98.5 may be somewhat high, but I think the 62.5 is probably low.
I mean, I could understand,
Okay, just a minute, Bruce.
Okay.
Trying to come up with a conclusion here.
Sure.
Can I
One of the
make
things
a
that we
comment?
did yesterday, Mark, is I threw out a motion, or we'd split the difference. And I kind of agreed with the 96 and the 64. I would suggest splitting the difference between those two. That would bring it up to just the structure to 62.5 plus the land, which would be the 14, or 15.6. And that would bring,
I was doing the same
Structure
thing.
was
What'd you get?
46.9.
Well, I come up with 65.4 for the structure, and then you add
15,
15.6,
yep.
comes up to 81,000.
And I think that that's probably fair.
That'd be my motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to bring the total up to 81,000. And how you do that is you're splitting the difference, which is adding 18,500 to the structure.
So you're still at
Bob, you had a comment?
15.6?
Yeah, I just wanted to address just a couple of the concerns. We did do a complete reappraisal of the town in 16, and a lot of them were appealed back, and we let them go last year because we were just absolutely swamped. This year, we sent out a crew to look at all the homes and try and address some of the issues with the homes, and we addressed a lot of issues on a lot of homes, particularly with basements, cracked foundations, water problems, all of that. So when we talk about the condition, that's one of the things we're looking at. Has this house been remodeled? Is there something wrong with it? I mean, we really tried to pay attention to all those variances in the conditions of the properties. And then, of course, the market end wall is somewhat limited, but we pay attention to the sales. We're using a cost approach and then adjusting to the market. So I just want to reassure you that being able to get into all these homes has been fantastic. People at Wall were great, allowing us to do that, which enabled us to do our job and make adjustments for condition. So I just want to, I guess, reassure you that that's something we really paid attention to was remodel and particularly all of those that had problems, and there was a lot of them. We really didn't know there was that many water problem, or that much water problem in Wall. It's pretty significant, so we certainly took that into account, so.
And I think this board respects the work that you do, and one of the things I like to stress to some of the homeowners that are out here, if some of these get reduced, that doesn't mean they're gonna stay that way. They're gonna go right back up next year, and you'll have to go through the same process we've had in our past equalization boards, where people have appealed them every year and every year. Pretty soon, it's not equal to the rest of the people. It's severely unequal to the rest of the community and the neighbors in that neighborhood, so be cautious.
Chairman?
Ms. Hadcock.
I believe you guys did a lot of work out there, and you do very good work, Gordon, and your team. The big thing is for me, is taking a pretty big hit from one, 10,000, 20,000 a year. Most of us can take that hit and we can understand, but when we're going up 36,000 and 40,000, that's a pretty big hit for most people that are on budget. As you know, because if I live in a $110,000 house, that doesn't mean I can't afford more, but we live on a budget. So some of that is part of, for me, what kind of hit you're putting on people. You guys are doing your job. You guys are doing it right, and you're following all the process, and I respect that, but I also respect that people have to be able to and want to stay in their houses with that big a hit. I know it's comparable, marketable, and they could sell it and do that kind of stuff, but most of us stay in our house. I've been in my house 25, 30 years, so I'm not gonna move out. So I guess what I'm saying is you guys do a great job, but just sometimes for me, it's what kind of hit they're taking, or, it's never about that you guys ever did anything wrong.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
and we're obligated
Okay.
by law, of course, to
Yes, sir. And
go at
that's,
market value, and we look at the market in every neighborhood and every town every year.
and that's what I'm trying to
So-
say. You're doing by law what you're supposed to do. You guys aren't doing anything wrong. We just,
Okay.
so.
We have a motion on the floor. We have more discussion. Robert, you understand the motion on the floor that we're doing?
Get down to 80, what'd you say it was?
One.
Yeah,
81, okay.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Still want to talk, or?
Yeah, no, it would, yes.
Okay.
I have problems too.
All right. The next one we have on the list is Justin Crawford.
Oh, I thought you were gonna put me up there.
Oh, you wanted to go now?
Yes, I do want to go, yes.
Okay.
I still do want to go.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
have properties too.
All right.
Thank you.
Which ones are we looking at?
Marty Heather, is that how you pronounce it?
Heather,
Heather,
they'll need the tax ID number on that.
Is that with an E?
42804.
42804. 42804.
Second page, second to
Yep.
the last.
And I do appreciate the comments, Commissioner Haddock about that. That was, a lot of the comments we had last year was, we can see a percentage and maybe somewhere undervalued, but when you're seeing, I had come up with a spreadsheet last year, 295% change in assessment, 300% change, 134, 120, quite a number, 70 to 100% change. That's a tough pill to swallow for the fixed income type people in community wall. And I understand the mill levies adjust somewhat, but you got some of your fixed ones too, your ambulance district, your schools where they have the capital outlay where those maybe don't adjust. And that's, some of the tax burdens last year changed, 400 or 500%. Some of they did a good job, but they were, I think, understaffed last year. Did not touch the higher end houses or the businesses in town. So they focused on that $100,000 and less category house, and it really took a hit. And I appreciate the comments because that's one of the things we're trying to be equitable and fair. But, mine you have up there, and I apologize. I did not meet with the county. They made a couple attempts to get a hold of me and some other things going on, so I apologize. It's my fault that they were not able to get into my house and look at it. Mine went up about 20%. I can't probably argue a lot. I'm not going to get too sideways. One of the things I want to point out is I see a few times over the last several years is the percentage in my basement. That's the only thing I would encourage them at some point in time if we could meet up as I've got some of that water problem issue too. One wall's kind of abode a bit, and I think I've stopped it, but and the finished percentage should be about 50%. I've got 2 bedrooms down there, and the west half of that and the east half is all open. So it's about more around 400 square foot of finished basement versus the 700, which is not much, but it's, you can try to get what you can, right? A few years ago with a severe drought, I had some settling where that garage is. That's new. The original house is 1950. It kind of pulled away from the original house a couple inches, which I'm going to have to mediate here shortly. That very front door, the very middle of the house needs to be replaced. It's windows falling out in it. Those are minor things. Like I said, mine went up 20%. I almost feel guilty standing up here and when everybody else in town's up here because theirs went up 70, 80%. But I just want to point a few of those things out on mine, and we're turned over to you guys for whatever thoughts you have.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. DeSanto.
what's the total square foot of your house?
About 1,100, or 1,400, I think. Let me look here.
1592.
Yeah, 1592. That's with the new addition in the basement and the main part.
What was your assessment last year? You said it went up 20%?
It ended up at 109.2. The previous year was 96, and I paid 30,000 for it in 97.
It's 111.4 this year, right?
That might be what they have it on here, the 131.8.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's from the wall
And it
board.
Oh,
adjusted.
I apologize. I was looking.
I think that's what we adjusted it down to, local board. That's that 3%, or around that 3.
Marty, just for information, I've had a couple properties go up over 25% this year in Rapid, so.
Yeah.
Second.
And it's very understandable in how the markets have changed and things get added on, so.
A bigger picture of her.
While everybody's looking this up, I'll let you,
Thanks.
Ron?
Good morning, board. I'm Rod Sutton with Pennington County Equalization. So to address the reason for the change, we had, as Gordon mentioned, we did a reappraisal of the entire town of Wall in 2016. Prior to that, most of these homes, including this one, had been valued as if they were still original. So for a home like this that was built originally in 1955, not being out on the properties, we hadn't captured any improvements, any changes, any renovations, any upgrades, any of those things had not been captured until 2016. So a lot of these homes were still being valued as if they're original to their build year. And this is a really good example of one of those homes. So we were still valuing this as original materials, original exterior, interior. When we did the reappraisal in 2016, we can see that it has newer than original materials. The roof has been replaced. It has newer siding, some of the windows, those types of things. So that's the data that we have to correct when we're physically on the property. And that was why there was a large increase in 2016. So when the Wall Board brought the values back last year, they were bringing them back to values as if most of those homes were still original. So that's a better explanation, I think, of why there was a big change. And if it happens uniformly across the city, like the mayor was saying, the mill levies will adjust to that. But we're creating an unequal situation when there's some people at appeal and the board is lowering their value, and there's a lot of people that didn't appeal. So their data is still accurate with us. It's still at market value. It has all of the changes that we made that we observed when we were on site. So there is some inequality that's being created by the people that did appeal and that had their values lowered, and the ones that are still using the correct information and are at market value. So in this particular situation, this is a good example of a home that was still being valued as a 1955 home, and it certainly is not. It's had the addition above the garage was in 2004. When that was put on, it was simply added as more square footage, but valued at 1955 depreciation. So even though the square footage did change, when the addition was added above the garage, we didn't have the consideration for that new material that was added at that time. So this home has had upgrades. It's not original to 1955. That is the reason that the increase happened. And I feel that our value at the 131.8 is a good representation of full market value. And that's my recommendation, is to leave it at the value for that originally went out with the assessment.
Thank you, Rod, for your great explanation on
Mr. Chair.
I think he had it. Mr. Farabee.
For several weeks now, we've heard about basements in Wall. And I guess the question is for Shannon's not here, the director's not here, so Gordon, I guess, would be was there any standard discount for bowed walls or basement problems or whatever is all involved in basements? Was there a standard number, or did it vary from place to place?
Yeah, there were standard adjustments. It did vary from place to place depending on what was wrong with the basement. In some basements, it was just one wall that was pushing in. There's multiple walls or the floor. We got water seeping up through the floor. We kind of had a standardized adjustment that we used, so all the appraisers were using the same methodology when adjusting them.
Follow up then, for one bowed wall would be what kind of a discount?
We're using about 10% on one wall.
Maybe 10%, yeah.
Yeah, about 10% on one mowed wall. Yep.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, my motion is to lower it by, when you say 10% of the value of the structure, correct?
That's correct, yep.
Okay. So whatever that winds up being, that's my motion.
Chair? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Let's see if if somebody can come up with a number besides the 10%.
Can I ask him a question on the boat wall? Okay.
Yeah.
Rod, thank you while you guys are figuring. So Rod, you didn't get to go look at this property inside?
I did not. As the mayor mentioned, we reached out. We did leave door tags. I left quite a few phone messages. This was the first. This morning was the first that I had met him. So information like he brought up would have been great to know,
Ahead of
weeks
time.
ago. And then if there's something that we had to do, if we had bad data is going to create a bad value all the time. So if we have information that we need to correct, that's the reason we're reaching out and leaving messages, so we don't have to be
Come up
here.
with-
We can come to an equitable agreement.
Yes, sir. So, he was talking about his walls and the different things. Would you discount that in your, appraisal and have you before? And usually, what does that usually, I mean, what's the percentage or what happens with that when you find out walls and different stuff? I've known you long enough to know that you know all this stuff, without having a director answer, so.
Sure. Well, thanks. It's really going to, if we're on site, we can make the best analysis. So it's not a blanket
Right.
adjustment that basements equal X. So old basements crack, they just do. Some have foundations that are going to compromise the entire structure. So those types of things we're going to know when we're on site. So I'm not trying to give you a vague answer, but if we're there, we're going to make a much better analysis. And if the homeowner has something that they feel is affecting the value of their home, then we'll look at it directly. But if this is just, common cracks in a basement and things like that, we typically would not make a percent adjustment. We would adjust the condition of the home.
Okay, and what do you usually do when you adjust the condition of the home? Is it amount, percentage? I mean, how do you end up getting where you're at?
So every home has essentially 2 years. There's the year it's built, and then there's the year that we call the effective age, that it's more effectively like.
Right,
So if it's like on this particular home, so it was built in 55. Prior to our site visit, we said this is all original. It's had some maintenance, things like that. But prior to our visit, we were saying it's more like a 1980s home. So that was like 2015 and before. So when we're out on site, new materials, newer roof, newer siding, all those things, then we're saying, well, this home is actually more like a 1995 home. So we give it a year that it's more similar to. We call that an effective age. So that's how we're going to adjust depreciation, essentially.
and that's where you came up with the 131.
Yep.
Okay, I think Mr. Farabee,
Hold on just a sec,
Motion
you
is-
still,
hold on. So, we have stuff this afternoon too. Can we go look at this house or no? I mean, do you have time? We've done that the year before. I mean, that sounds crazy in one sense, but you also want to they haven't been in the house.
Right.
So Rod, is there any way that we could, or Sherwood, that you would let them in your properties?
Yeah, and I'll be back in Wall. I do have a meeting with some Tesla representatives actually at 2 o'clock in Wall. But, and I'm, like I said, it's on me that he's right. They left a couple messages and due to my schedule, I was unable to meet with them and have them get in the house. Like I say, the one thing I would say is that my addition, I believe was 98 that I built that. I built it as soon as I moved in. The 2004 might have been the deck on the front. And so the shingles were all done in there about 1998 timeframe across the whole house. And then yeah, it's newer, and I'm not, wouldn't discount that, but I would say the local board did not take things back to the 1950s era. As you see, like I said, we had 20 to 40% increases last year that our local board approved. So it's,
If we adjust this today, I would probably say no, just because I'd like him to go in there, not because I would like a fair adjustment to what
you
we're
know,
talking
and
about.
I
so.
would concur with that. Now, if that's your wishes, that's your wishes, and like I said, it's part on me, and between now and next year, we'll get him in there and take a look at things, but I'll
you, sir.
leave it up to you guys. I'd hate to have someone drive down the wall just for my house.
thanks, Marty. Mr. Farabee.
My motion is 120.1.
What is it?
120.1
Why?
thousand. Well, that's 10% off of the,
It's pretty close.
and I'm guessing that we can trust the mayor to zip kind of boat like an old cowboy's leg, or
What?
So,
He said he's got a bowed basement wall,
Okay, just.
yeah,
and he and I talk about bowed, sitting in the saddle a time or two, and so.
is there a second to that
I'll
motion?
second that motion, but for discussion.
Is that
Second
total,
for-
120?
120,100,
120,100.
and the amount that's gonna be reduced to be off the structure.
Okay.
Chairman.
Just a minute, Mr. DeSanto.
One thing that, and Rod, I'm sure you guys consider this, but when there's damage to a home and you're trying to sell it, sometimes it's impossible to sell. So the valuation of the home is zero because until you've repaired whatever problem that is, and sometimes, on a foundation problem, it could be $20,000, $30,000 to repair a foundation. I repaired one 3 years ago. And so when we're looking at that stuff, is that something you take into consideration too, that if this damage is left unchecked, they're not selling this house at all?
Well, yes, in answer to the question, yes, we do consider things like that. And we kind of address it the same way. It's going to affect the condition of the home. If there's a cost to repair to overcome whatever the issue is to cause that home to sell, if there's a cost to overcome that, then that's a good indication of what we should lower our value at, because it definitely is affecting the value. And it may just be the words that you use, but I wouldn't say there's zero value. There's always going to be value there. There's definitely going to be repairs that need to be made, but yeah, I understand your point.
Chairman,
One other thing, Deb.
you're okay.
Marty,
Yes.
you say that this water damage problem, those bending, bowing wall, reduces the 1,592 square feet of livable space to about by 300 square feet, you think?
No, I'm just saying that portion of the house is unfinished on that portion, where the wall, it's not unlivable there. I mean, the north wall is bowed a couple inches, and they've got 2x8s that are there, they're in the concrete and tied to the rafters. They're mitigating that somewhat, but it is there. It's been there a while.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Hadcock.
On our value on some of our houses, it depends, and that's why I said about going in and looking at the property. If it looks like the wall's gonna fall in, that's a whole different ballgame than what we do is we brace it with some steel bracing. We put up pillars or whatever, 2x4s, and put steel plates, and it didn't devalue our home at all, and it's still livable. And it's legal and it's engineered. So that's why I said, for me, just to not be able to look in the home and see what the value, and same with Rod, I believe. It's hard for me to discount 10 or 20% at this rate. I think that's fair. Like I said, if those percentages are way over the top and it's something that it's a big deal. But in this case, sir, without being able to look at the home and him to be able to value, again, I've worked with Rod a lot and he's more than fair. Not that anybody else isn't, but I think you did a good job on this one without seeing it.
Okay, motion on the floor is to reduce it down to 121, and that is coming down from
131.
131. There was a motion and there's a second. Any further discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? No. So motion fails with 3 noes, 2 yeas from DeSanto and Mark, so we're back to the original, there was no original motion? So is there another motion?
I'll take it back to the regular unless we can go in there somehow to look. So I guess it's at the regular unless we can have Rod or somebody go look at that house.
So the recommendation would be 14.4 for land and 10, no, I'm on the wrong one.
14.7 for the land.
14.7 and
14.7 and 96.7 for structure.
117.1 for structure.
Right here. Right there.
Okay, I'm off by
Yep,
one.
you're okay.
The four recommendations, 14.7 and 117.1 for a total of 131.8. That is the motion on the by Hadcock,
Second.
seconded by Buskerud. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries with 2 noes from Mark, Santo, and Mr. Farabee. Now do we have another one?
I do have another property, of my wife's. That's, it's actually still under her maiden name, but
It's tax ID 18863 under Susan Dart.
863.
Which one? Yeah.
On that same page, right above it, you guys, about 3 or 4?
I think so.
1, 2, 3, up 4. The last one.
Gotcha.
What is it?
86.
188?
18863.
okay, on this one, once again, they did reach out to us, and my wife was able to call back in yesterday. They have not been inside the house, but this is an old house as well, I believe. Original,
Next page.
yeah, 1910, that's what I thought.
1910.
About 4 years ago, she had a contractor put a steel roof on it. I have put, about a year, a little over a year ago, put 2 windows in it, 2 bedroom windows. The rest of the windows are in fairly tough shape, need to be replaced as well. The little garage, you can't really see that to the right of the house there is just a little single car garage. You can't even get a pickup in, and it's in, just about needs to be tore down. It sits lower than the driveway. It has been that way for years. Water runs in there. It's something that's gonna have to be taken care of. It's not in very good shape at all. She paid $38,000 for that in 2005, and this is one of those that went up. It's gone up 105% since 2016, 70% this last year. It was valued at $50,700 last year, and they've got it 86.3. I just think about 4 years ago we had it for sale for $66,000. Did not get any takers. Kept it on the market for about a year. About a year and a half ago, had it on the market for about 6 months for $72,000, and I think we had one person look at it.
Rod, can you make that picture a little bigger? I'm sorry. And how many square feet is this?
1120, and does have a basement. 1120 is not
Mr.
including
Chair.
basement.
Mr. DeSanto?
Marty, has this house been re-sided?
No, it hasn't. That has to be, if you get up close to it, we repainted it about 6 years ago, and the edges are where they get wore off and they're starting to expand because of the moisture.
How
So
about
it's-
new gutters?
No new gutters.
Okay.
In fact, even the 1x4s, 1x6 on the side need to be, some of those are rotten out as well, need to be replaced.
Okay, Rod, did you want to go over some of your comparables, how you come up? Were you
Sure.
done, Mark?
The, kind of to bring up the conversation that we just had on the previous one, this is another one that we still had as mostly original to the 1910 build year. In my estimation, the siding is not 1910 original. It was probably replaced prior to their purchase, but it wouldn't be original materials. So, and then some of the windows, obviously the roof was newer. And again, those are some of the things that we had to correct and say these are not original materials. We did have, or I did have a conversation with Susan late last night. I was trying to get a better idea of what the interior was like. And this is just generally how we have to work. If we only have an exterior inspection and we see some upgrades, we're going to assume that the interior has also had similar upgrades. So that was the kind of the question mark, is how renovated is the interior? And that I don't know. And I think that's probably, or I know that's one of the bigger factors in the current value, is assuming that the interior is also not 1910. And so that's largely how we arrived at our value. I did want to bring up There is a parcel, if you could go to the, go to the map that shows. Yes. Well, there's a narrow strip of land that's connected to this, that if this home were sold, it would be sold altogether as, even though it's two pieces of land, the other one is maybe about, I don't know how wide that garage is, maybe like 12 to 14 feet, just a long, narrow strip of land. We made an adjustment to that, so that does kind of affect the overall value of the home. We originally had 7,800 on this narrow strip, which you'll see here in just a minute, and we reduced that value down to 1,300. So if they were to list this home, of course, that narrow piece of land would be included with that, and so there was a large adjustment that was made to that piece as well, to kind of consider it as a whole package.
Okay, Marty, do you have any follow-up?
Yeah, and I would agree with that. He just told me that this morning. That's one thing it was very small. He used to have a small travel trailer that a guy lived in for years on that lot, and that's all it was for. It was carved out for that, and percentage-wise, it had gone up 100%, or from 2,000 to 8,000 last year, and we reduced it back down to 4,000, and went back up to 78 this year, and I think, would you say 1,100?
1,300 is.
Which is fair, I think, on it, because it is a very, very small piece of land, and right within the backyard that's there.
So where the highlighted piece is, it would be that narrow strip that's immediately to the right. So, and like I said, if the home were listed, it would sell as one, both those pieces included. So we did make some adjustment there, nearly 7,000 off that. But like I said, this is just a similar situation where our value was low due to considering everything to be an original.
Is there any suggestions?
see the
Mr.
comparables
Busker?
again?
Scroll down, Chris.
To make this short and sweet, I'm gonna make a motion that we assess this at $71,000. I see 5 comparables.
Second.
One you gotta throw out of there, that 141. The others are 70, 70, 71, and 73. If they're comparable, aren't they?
I second because that's close to where I was going, so.
Okay. We got a motion to set it at 71,000. Any more discussion?
That puts it up more than half. There you go.
Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Aye. 1 no.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I just appreciate your time, but one thing too, if I could make a request or a recommendation, one thing that caught people off guard, because you're right, some people don't come in, and you start getting some inequities sometimes. But one thing we caught this year is when the notice goes out, and they show the percentage increase on that one-page document, it shows the percentage increase based on what they recommended last year, not what it's set at. So we had a lot of people getting a notice that said it was going up 2%, when in actuality it's going up 70%. So that's kind of an eye-opener, and that's something I would encourage the commissioners in the county to take a look at, so that when people get those notices, it's true to what they was last year versus what they're recommending for the current year.
So Marty, that was what I was just talking about. Another thing I'll follow up on is when we reduce these like this, and then they come back up with the original, and there is some more, so then the percentage goes up higher, so then everybody's mad because they've even went up higher than the normal 2 or 3%. You know, they're working, trying to get it up to market value, and sometimes we do what we do, and when it goes back up, it still seems like a higher percentage when it's really not.
Which I can't argue, but the notice sent out it's almost misrepresenting what the actual increase is.
Yeah,
Percent, yep.
So, thank you.
thanks,
Who
Marty.
who just voted no on that one? I didn't hear it.
Anybody vote no?
Yeah, it was 4 to 1.
Me.
but That's what okay, I was just making sure. Thank you.
You?
Yep.
Lloyd looked great.
Okay, now we'll jump back to Justin Crawford. 18965.
965.
First page, about 10 down.
10 down. Yep. Thank you.
I'm still trying to find it.
First page, honey. Right here.
What's the name?
Right there.
Right here. Okay. Oh,
18965.
Okay. You are
I'm Tracy Crawford.
Tracy.
Yep.
Okay.
My husband pulled night shift for the next 3 weeks, so he couldn't be here today.
Okay, Tracy.
We we recently moved into this place. My father-in-law had it prior to that, so any attempts to get into the building when he was still around were he wasn't around. When he came in and took a look at the house, I showed him the crawl space that has water in it on a regular basis. Nothing has been updated in the home forever.
You know the
Okay.
recommended
Am I
change?
missing something here?
This is,
Yeah.
yeah,
They
No,
this
lowered
is,
we've come to an agreement as to what,
yeah. I'll recognize.
Okay.
Scott from the Equalization office.
Scott.
They lowered it.
This home, just like Tracy was saying when I was there, I found many things that were, we'll say, well below what we had assumed they were from the reappraisal. At this point, it does have a metal roof on it, not those shingles. I just didn't have the photo uploaded. But the floors sloped away from the center of the home. There's significant cracking in the drywall and the ceiling. The cabinets weren't anchored or secured in the kitchen. There were portions of the wall missing to have access to the pipes, and they made a significant reduction to account for those and for the condition of the garage. My recommendation, which was a total of 35,300, brought it right back in line with where it was prior to the reappraisal in 2016. So it essentially walked back the effective age, accounted for the issues we saw with the home, and put
Okay.
it to where I believe a good value is for the area.
This is one of the rare occasions that it's even lower than the wall board. The local board.
Okay,
So
Chairman, that'd be my motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you,
it's
sir.
been moved by Mr. DeSanto and our Ms. Hadcock and seconded by Mr. Buskerud to
Same
follow the
DeSanto.
recommendation of 14-3 for land and 21 for structure. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. You
Thank you.
okay with that one?
that I'm perfectly fine with that one.
Worth the trip.
Yes.
And just a little comment, there are actually a number of them that we went
Number of
below
them
the
come
wall
up?
board. They're not here, but yeah, we get to look inside, makes
did.
all the difference in the world.
I remember you guys saying that, so that's good to hear.
Yeah, except the former director, no, the former emergency management director of Pennington County, you hadn't been out and been inside his house, and he complained about his taxes, and so you went out there, and sure enough, they went up.
That happens too, absolutely. We try and be fair. Susan Dart? Oh, we got that, okay. Or that, okay, that was the one, yeah. Larry Eisenbrunn?
Which one?
What's the number?
190.17.
And the number is,
190.
there's several of them, but the first one, let's go with 19017.
Where's that at? Oh, on that
Same,
little page,
yeah.
guys. That little one that you were doing the mayor's on?
No, he's got several.
The first one's on 190.
There are 3 properties that he has.
19017's on the first page.
First
One
page.
seven, not 07, okay.
19017.
Oh, okay, Larry, okay, thank you.
Larry, would you like to go first, or would you like to yield to the young lady?
Well, this is the house that I actually live in. The other two properties that I don't live in them, but I bought this in 1997, and at the time I had just sold a house in town and had needed a different one because my wife was passing away with cancer, so she didn't want to move back to the country. We've tried to move to the country, but that's another story. But I believe this house was built in 1960 sometime, and it's a wood basement. And I kind of agreed with Rebecca?
correct.
I thought I was right on that when she called me, but I didn't write down the figures that she had given me, so I thought I better come up and
I'll be
argue just a little bit.
just a little bit. Her recommendations, from what I got here, is Rebecca's the land is 13.3 and structured 97.3, and that's a reduction. That comes up to 110,600. Your original was 121,600, right?
Correct.
And so she's actually coming down from hers, but it's just a little bit higher from what the wall board recommended.
This one, like I said, I wasn't near as probably upset about this one because
Okay,
this one was pretty close. The only improvements I've made since I've owned it is I put a steel roof on it.
okay, so Larry, you're okay with Rebecca's
Yes, I am on this one.
Make a motion to approve 110,600 total.
moved by DeSanto, seconded by
Adcock.
Hadcock? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Is there another one, Rebecca?
There is two more, but
Two more.
which one you go on to next?
18,
I don't care.
18777?
Let's do his 605 and a half Dorothy Street. That's his rental property on a back lot of the house.
What
where-
number? Yeah,
19016.
19016.
Correct.
Well, that's that.
Larry W. Chad? Or-
Yep.
Okay.
That went down, Larry, so you're good with that one?
No, this is a really a small lot, and I don't know whether
Let's do a
I never checked on it. I guess to see were there any of the other lots or I know this is a real small lot, and I gave 15,000 for it in about 90 or about 2004. I'm going to guess, and I haven't done any improvements. The roof is leaking. And actually, I've actually talked a little bit to the fire department, thinking they could maybe burn it down, because I'm not sure that I want to leave it there. But for now, I'm using it for storage more than anything.
That's what I was gonna ask. It's unoccupied,
Yes,
Rebecca?
and
Pull it up on the map so you
Yeah.
can see.
So it's not occupied and you're using it for storage?
yes,
Okay. And Rebecca, did you ever get a chance to look inside? or
Yes, he
anything?
did give me a walkthrough, and the house is vacant. Let's see.
I know the foundation on this is really bad too. So, and I know the roof is leaking and there's water damage inside. So.
Rebecca?
I think did you see the water damage? I don't know whether I pointed that out to you or not.
So we had it at an average reflection of the depreciation. So after seeing what I did, I put it as worn condition, less than average, needing some work. But in contrast with properties with similar issues, I felt that it wasn't quite as exacerbated as other properties that we'd seen. But I did make adjustments for that. We slightly increased the square foot area because that's not an enclosed area at the front. But the original assessment was 42,200, and the recommendation I have is 36,400.
So Rebecca, when you looked at property, you were saying that structurally, it could be fixed, do you think? Is that?
I think that it's still habitable. I mean,
Board, I have a
again,
recommendation.
in reflection of the properties that I had to look at that had some fundamental problems with the foundation and the interior condition,
There was people
I felt that it wasn't as exacerbated.
Okay.
But Mr. Oz, so you can see on the map here, it's
It
an
is a
alley access lot. Mr. Eisenbrunn did discuss possibly having the house removed and maybe some future plans.
Oh, you also talked about having it burned down.
Yes, I,
I might be
I'm
close
going to say
there.
7, 8 years ago already, I talked to one of the firemen about having a, what do you call it?
A barbecue?
Well, that too,
Training
probably,
session, yeah.
but just to have a drill to see whether they could, need it to, but never nothing come out of it, but
So, Board, I have a recommendation.
Okay,
I'm gonna take it to the local board. You were satisfied with the local board, so 24-1 is, and he's agreeable.
I'll second that.
Okay.
I'll second that with the caveat that when you have the barbecue, I want to come.
okay. We'll make sure and invite you.
been moved and seconded to go with the, local board's recommendation, which is 8.5 for land and 15.6 for structure. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That one, is good, Larry. Now, which one we at now? Are we going back to 18,777?
Yes,
Okay,
that's the only one I've got left.
okay, this one was originally 13, well, I'll let Rebecca talk.
The published assessed value is 125,400. After making revisions, I would recommend 119,300. Again, maintaining land value at
Well, Larry-
14,000.
From, it looks like that she reduced it down from her original, but it's still higher than what the local board. Would you-
Yes, and the main reason I'm kind of objecting about this, 2 years ago, I bought this house for
79.
$78,000. So I think it's went up an awful lot in 2 years. That's my main objection of this one.
There is a prior 2003 sale of 80,000 as well, so whatever is there that reflects that
That was 2 years
difference.
ago?
In 2003, it
Oh,
sold at
I'm sorry.
80,000.
And Larry, you said you paid how much when?
78.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
sometimes you get a really good deal.
Well, I, I, I knew the house and I thought it ain't worth any more than that. I didn't think so.
We do have sale comparables that we can look at as well. I think that we have some that, when you make the adjustments, those are supportive values. First one, 706 Glen Street, sold August 2017 for 140,000. After adjustments, that is 111,698. The second sold September 2017, 187,500. After adjustments, it's around 129,000. On 601 Houston, sold March 2017 for 89,000. Making adjustments, that sale price is 114,390. And we can go on through the rest if you
Okay.
like.
Jessica, can you bring that picture up and tell me the square footage again?
We have on the main floor 1,612, and then there is a partial finished at a minimal quality basement.
Basement.
Ms. Chris, thank you.
Not on mine, there's no there's no partial basement on any of mine.
Oh, I'm sorry, crawl space. I was thinking
Crawl
of
space,
this.
I knew that there wasn't no basement.
I'm sorry.
So what was the square, sorry, I didn't write that down. 1,200 square feet,
1612.
1612. Just from my point of view, I think Equalization readjusted it from their original down to 119.3, and I think seems fair to me. And I say that, Larry, because just as I just said priorly, if we reduce it down and then it goes back up to what the market value, you're gonna come here again next year.
I kind of knew that.
Yeah.
I've done this already before, so.
So
Everybody.
I guess that'd be my motion, is to go with Rebecca's recommendation of 14.3 for the land, 105 for the land, made by me, seconded by DeSanto. Did you have a comment?
Good.
Okay. I shouldn't be making motions, but,
No, you can.
okay.
This is a different, this equalization.
So, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So she reduced it down, do you see the recommendation that they came back with, Larry?
The 119,
19,
is that,
3,
Yep.
yep.
okay, all right. I'll have to leave it there, I guess. And I told Rebecca I probably wasn't gonna argue too much on any of it, too bad, but at the same time, you need to, I need to come and visit with you people.
Yeah, you do.
That you know that I'm thinking about it when I do.
Thank you, Larry.
We appreciate your attention, Larry.
Thank you.
Everybody that's here?
No,
One more. 5-minute
No more?
recess or break?
I guess that's all for this morning.
What?
Well, that's why.
You'll come back to 1?
1 o'clock.
I have to
New
say
list.
before I leave, I appreciate the effort from Janet and her office for coming down and working with us on the satellite office. It's been proceeding good and we had some great meetings. And Commissioner Sano as well.
Work on getting a couple of real estate agents on that board.
Yeah.
That'd help you a lot.
no kidding.
It would help.
Motion for what?
So if we do that, you'll just sign off on them when we sign them up?
Some don't want it, some don't want to be on those boards because they feel it's a conflict
it's time.
or
It's
something.
Sit, Busker, sit. You still have other,
Need some
Can they,
experience.
if they're outside your community, can they still be on
I
there?
would,
Yeah,
Lloyd, we're not done.
I mean,
On that, I don't, I'm just.
Lynn sold 3 houses there.
Gotta make some
People
motions on
from
the
Rapid
list.
sell
oh,
houses
yes,
in Wall.
yes, we got some,
So we can appoint anybody to that board.
okay. We got, Gordon, we got your list,
Take care, Mayor.
or is that the end of the day?
Well, I guess on all the morning ones. Yeah, okay. So we've got the
Make a motion to approve, well,
STIP list and the no change list for those that we had this morning that were not here.
For the 4/19/18 wall morning session steps?
Yeah.
Busker made
Yes.
the motion.
other than the ones that we changed.
I'll second.
Excluding, okay.
Right.
Everybody's okay with that? You're okay with the motion?
Make the motion again, so it's clear. What's the motion?
I'm perfectly clear. I would make a motion to approve the, what did you say, the 4/18/18 wall morning session, with the exception of those that we have made a motion and changed.
Go ahead, it's your.
Second.
There you go.
Seconded by DeSanto.
Is that good?
419.
19, oh,
Yeah,
for
he said
1918.
Put the 420 with the 426 on the side.
we're okay. I think we're clear.
420, 421.
Seconded with the change to 419.
Okay.
419.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Sorry.
Motion carries.
220,
Anything
Now,
else?
wasn't that
whatever
easy
it
for you
takes.
or what, Gordon?
We're not done yet.
Sit, Busker,
What else we
sit.
got?
You've got the other list, the appointment and reinstate one. We want you to make a recommendation to reinstate our values.
And that's, so I'm looking for a motion for the wall morning session 4/19/18
I thought they did both of them.
to reinstate the assessed value list.
Excluding those that appear.
With the exception of 18863, and that was it, right?
And 42804.
Was that your motion, Mark?
And 42804.
Second. That's
Was
where
that
we're
your
doing.
motion? Okay. And you, Hadcock seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Second.
Can I go now,
Now you-
boss?
Be back this afternoon with a new list.
Go.
1 o'clock, new list.
1 o'clock.
Okay, looks like the first person we have up here is Schroeder. Okay, you can come on up here.
Gordon, you got a number on?
Number is 18744.
Okay.
Where's that at? Yeah.
Gordon, just give us a minute to find it.
we find it?
Yeah, right here.
Okay,
Yeah, right here.
Rebecca, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
first
thank
page.
you.
Okay.
Up to 5 or 6.
Gordon, did Rebecca show you that from their original assessment that they lowered it down?
You mean a year ago? Or,
I'll let Rebecca kind of explain, and then I'll come to you, okay?
We did have a discussion in this way at his home, and we reviewed tax bills and assessment notices to sort of see the chain of events and what transpired. So, the last couple of years, there was a board action at the local level which determined the final assessed value, and so that, and how that relates to the percent change reflected. And we did go over that a bit. The initial assessment for the 2018 year was 169,500. I'm recommending a value of 168,700.
168.7, okay,
168.7, correct.
okay. Verl,
yes.
okay. I'll go ahead and let you,
Okay,
if you have any comments before we go into the comparables and stuff.
in 2017, they raised it almost 25%. So I appealed to the local board, and they lowered it to just a 10% increase, which is what I paid taxes on this year. But when I got the notice this year, they said that it was a 1.86% increase, which actually it's 15% increase and 25% increase over the 2 years. So I think they was trying to slip something past some of us when they said that it was a 1.68 increase, but they went back to 2017 where they appraised it at, which was lowered, which I paid taxes on.
Okay,
Because the first time I looked at it, I thought, well, 1% increase, that ain't much. But then when I look back, they went back to 2017 and called it a 1% increase when actually I paid taxes on the 10% increase. So that's still 15% increase for this year. And I don't think, that don't sound right. If they're going to give me a 1% increase, they should give me 1% increase on what it was last year that I paid taxes on.
okay,
That's what it said.
Gordon, I'll let Gordon address how that works out.
Yeah, when we send out the tax notices, it shows the increase. Obviously, it's just looking at the two numbers and calculating the percent increase. We aren't saying we're going to raise it this much. That's the calculation, the difference between the two of them. However, when we send them out, it calculates, and I don't really like it. That's the way it is. It calculates off of the value we had last year versus the board lowered it. Okay, we had a value, the board lowered it, and now this year, when we send out the notice, it calculates the increase over our number, not the number that was lowered from the board. So that's why it looks that way.
And Gordon, that kind of goes to the point that we've been explaining to a lot of residents here today, is that when they come in and appeal and get it lowered, it actually, yeah, convolutes things, because by the following year, that ends up getting back to where it should have been.
Well, yeah, and there's kind of two issues there. There is that, but the way that it reads, where it calculates off the previous value we had rather than the change. And I can understand his frustration, and I don't know that there is anything we can do about that. Have to do a program change. My preference would be, it would show an increase over the value that he had last year rather than, that he got from the boards.
Did he
It would
actually
be my
make that?
preference to do it that way, certainly. Yeah, because it is confusing.
I see, it's a 25% increase over 2 years. Now, I'm 77 years old on Social Security. That's gonna raise my taxes possibly 25%, so how am I gonna cover that?
Yeah, and I certainly understand.
So it's my problem.
Well, no, I mean, it's unfortunate, I guess I'll say that.
Yeah.
We have to value property at market value. And we're required by state law to value at market value. So whatever that is,
But
whatever.
I disagree on the market values.
Okay,
One house here is in with a campground. So I suppose they had to put a value on that house. You know, it's the owner's house, and the campground that he bought. And that's, I suppose, I don't know what they probably figured out when they draw out the paper, we'll put so much value on it,
On the house.
on the house. And it's high. And it's right next door to me.
okay, Burl,
Now, the house across the street sold in the last 2 years, and they never mentioned that. Why? Because it was low.
Well,
Burl,
no, sorry.
go ahead. Well, Gordon, I was just gonna have Rebecca show us the comparables so the board can take a look at them and we can,
All right, so we have Mr. Schroeder's property. With the first comparable, which sold in September of 2017, it sold at 187,500. When you adjust it to make it comparable to Mr. Schroeder's, it's 192,952. The following comp 2 sold July 2016, 229,000. After adjustments, it comes out at about 236,000. The third sold November of 2016 for 180,000 with a adjusted value of 187,224. So, and we can look at those on the map. Mr. Schroeder's property is unique in that there is significant square foot area. It's a split level. It used to be a floral shop, but there's still a functional flow to the house. There isn't a garage, so I think there's some unique characteristics about it, but we're generally looking at a large square foot area.
so Rebecca, could you explain, Mr. Schroeder, how you make those adjustments from your comparables?
We did, I didn't have specific comparables for his property because of the nature of the timing that we all had, and there was a sense of urgency to address everyone's appeal post local level action and try to address any changes that did need to be made. So I wasn't able to do that at that time.
I was talking about like on some of your comparables when you say you adjusted them to make them comparable.
I think I tried to go over a little bit of that.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a little bit more into the conversation about the percent change and trying to understand that at.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Schroeder? Mr. DeSanto?
One thing that concerns me in a lot of these comparisons, and like I said, I'm pretty familiar with Wall, the comparison with the Lariat Street addresses, that's a brand-new neighborhood.
Yeah, and that,
It's got nicer lighting, it's got nicer streets, it's got, a golf course very nearby. So just looking at it from a real estate value standpoint, in my mind anyhow, correct me if I'm wrong, that neighborhood is kind of, in my opinion, set aside from the main part of Wall. That, in downtown Wall and the main part of Wall, you can have a house right next door that's run down and shabby. Whereas out on that newer development, all those houses are in great condition because they're pretty much brand new. So I'm a little concerned about always having that Lariat address. I see quite a few of these Lariat addresses. I think on every single one of them, actually, we've had those as a comparable. And for me, I don't see the comparison.
Yeah, and that's actually why we use the cost approach to value in wall. We use the cost approach because we don't have as many comparables.
Okay.
Now, we gotta use comparables to defend our cost approach. We do make an adjustment to wall, in wall, for the fact that it's in wall. We look at the, sales ratio of what the properties are selling for as a whole and make an adjustment so that I think we're at about 20% less than Rapid City overall. But that is why we use a cost approach in wall, just because of that. These come up on the screen, and, you know, that's what we're using to defend. It works real well in Rapid City,
Okay.
because we have so many sales. We can, use a cost approach, and we have all these sales come up, and we can still defend our cost approach with the sales comparison approach.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's what in Wall, usually we don't have many sales, you know. So and if somebody buys a house, it's somebody coming in, probably got a job in Golden West or somebody, and they need a house. Now, I know I couldn't sell my house for what they got it listed for. We're on a busy street. And tourists come in there speeding.
Okay, Mr. Schroeder, could you bring us up that picture? You guys done with this, or you need to look at this more? You can make the picture, yeah.
Is it located in a major arterial or minor arterial? If you guys have a location map where it's located? Oh, that's.
You buy the grain elevators?
What's that?
You buy the grain elevators?
Well, before it, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
And see,
And
that's
on
the
the
main
arterial?
street coming into town.
pretty much. Is that road coming in from the
We
highway?
could sell it later.
In
And
the
of course,
vicinity of the
when-
mayor's property. In the vicinity of the mayor's property that we discussed this morning.
Okay.
You know, in that area.
How many square feet?
2,279 with a basement portion.
It's really not a basement, it's a lower level.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we describe it as a basement. Again, the house used to be a floral shop, so that portion on the right is, I believe, where that used to be. The portion on the right is where the floral shop used to be,
In the middle?
so maybe a garage in years
Yeah.
past.
Okay,
It was a garage.
Right.
okay.
But now that I don't have a garage, I think that lowers the value of the property because if you have a
Let's-
garage, that makes it.
I hear some calculators going, so I think we're gonna, I said, I hear some calculators going, so I'm gonna let the board kind of discuss what they need to do here.
Okay,
I'll do a quick, little bit of a review. The original assessment was 169.5, that was 14.3 for land, 155 for structure. The local board of adjustments came in, they adjusted, they stayed the same with the land and the house, the structure, they 136,340 with a total of 156,40. Jessica came back and even low, reviewed her assessment, and she came up with same as the land, 154,400 for the house with a 168,700, which was about $1,000 less than what the original one was.
About.
Yeah, about that. So those are what the board has to work with, I think, is those numbers.
Bear with me a second.
Beautiful house.
Yeah. Let me give Mark some time. He's running some numbers, so he must have an idea.
$9,030. If we split the difference, it's $9,030 between the wall assessment
In the original,
thought and the, and the recommended 168,700.
That makes it 159.
9,030, so yeah, 168, 700.
160.
159,670.
So you want to round it off?
Go 159,700. Make a motion that we set that adjustment at 159,700.
I'll second that.
There's been a motion and a second to set it at 159.7, and the reduction would be in the structure, correct?
Correct. All I'm working with is the
Yeah.
structures.
You understand that, Mr. Schroeder?
Now, is that total lot and?
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep, that's correct. Total lot and everything.
And I just want to make sure you're aware that that percentage number could change again next year.
Problem too.
I just don't want you to be surprised.
If I live that long.
Okay. Any further discussion with this board? Mr. Farabee?
Is that a current picture?
Correct. Last couple of years.
Got that kind of green grass in the wall?
I think it was 2016 that year.
Beautiful
Oh,
house.
that isn't just real current then.
I have a more current picture, but I don't know that it's
Oh, that's
quite as
fine then.
nice.
I think that green stuff is grass, right?
I'm so sorry. What was the question?
Yeah, he was just,
Giving you credit.
okay.
You're being funny.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Same. Motion's approved with one no from Mr. Busker. So
You pass.
adjust to 159.7.
Okay, thank you.
Like I said, keep an eye on your tax statement next year because it may look higher than,
Okay, the second individual up would be Terrence and Nikki Moore,
Number?
and that is 3709.
What was the name?
More, MOHR.
give us just a minute here.
Fourth one down on your single paper.
MOHR.
This one, Dave?
MOHR.
Okay.
There it is.
Nikki and,
Last page.
Terry.
Terry?
Terry, yeah.
It says Terrence, so you go by Terry or Terrence?
Terry.
Okay. Okay, Terrence and Nikki. We're looking at. Your notice was land 20,100 and structure 205,400 originally.
Correct.
Okay, I'll let you guys.
Okay. 2.5 years ago, we purchased the house for $177,500. Since that time, the assessment has gone up to $225,500 is what is being suggested for this year. I feel like in 2.5 years, over $45,000 difference between what we purchased the house for and the assessment is a lot. We haven't done anything other than cosmetic things as far as, carpet and things like that. We haven't done anything structurally to the house since we purchased it. So I guess, my question is, last year, we settled with the city and then the county approved that at $200,000. And we felt like since we had purchased the house that we were letting that increase kind of happen and settled at $200,000 last year. So another $25,500 increase from last year to this year just seems like a lot.
Rebecca?
We were able to visit on site and do an interior inspection. So there were a variety of changes that I did make. On the right side of the house, we had that upper area designated as a half-story when it's actually a full-story master suite area. There's also some living on the back side of the attached garage that we didn't have attributed. The basement, for example, we measured that out, and I'll allocate that as appropriate. We had a basement garage because there's a garage door on the back side. Removed that because there's no partitioning, it's just an open area. So with all of those changes, however, because we're increasing the square foot area, it causes the value to increase. So I would recommend a no change on this property, and I did try to reassure the homeowner that sales do support this value. There's a property just around in their particular neighborhood that I think sold in the last few years for 260 some, or close to the 250 range. There's also properties on the north side of the interstate in Wall which sold for 200 and some $1,000, various ones.
Okay, so you're feeling comfortable with your recommendation?
Well, I recommend no change, but we don't agree.
Yes, yes. Could you show us some of the comparables, please, Rebecca?
So let's turn on.
If I can, I'll make a note that a lot of the comparables are new houses compared to ours being built in 1983.
Okay.
So I don't feel like they're completely comparable with being new construction out in our area, or there's kind of, in our development, there's the old portion which we live in where all the houses were built in the early 80s. And then there's a newer portion where the houses were built,
Kinda going-
2005 on, kind of.
I have a question about, you said the additional living space in the garage. Where do you come up with that?
When we
Laundry room.
remeasured the garage, it was
That's
that
not a living
area.
space. It's a laundry room.
Well, that's considered living space.
The mudroom.
Mudroom.
So we just measured on the interior of the garage. So there's two different ways. Let's do this breakdown of the comparables, and then we can do an aerial and highlight sales from the last 3 years, and we can sort of do a bird's eye view.
Okay.
The first comparable sold September 2017 at $187,500. When we're making the adjustments, considering we have an adjusted value of $265,760. The second sold July 2016, $229,000. With adjustments, we have $309,643. The third comparable, November of 2016, sold for $180,000. With adjustments, we have a total of $260,031. Let's do.
That's the first one. That's what they're showing as the first column, is that one?
Okay, so we have their property highlighted. It's the red figure of 177,500. Right. So, and then if you were to see, there's a property over on is that Kelly Avenue for 264,000. And it is true that there are some new construction properties, but I think that this property is consistent with the style and quality and expectations of that neighborhood. So in the next few years, we might see some sale dynamics. Of course, we have that central area of Wall where you see a hodgepodge of varying values. There's one up there for 220,000, which I believe is one of those comparables that we have.
Okay.
Can you go back down toward their neighborhood?
Neighborhood is 175, 155, 26, they're a hodgepodge too. 250, 264.
If you notice, some of those are land sales of 25,000, and their existing land value is 20,100.
Miss Jessica, across the street at 170, 177 and 155, are their houses comparable or not?
I did not look
The
at the
house,
next door.
the house next to us that sold for 155, I want to say the tax assessment on that is around 130. And the house to the south of us, I mean, there hasn't been a recent sale on that, but that house is assessed at, I want to say, around 150, maybe not quite 150, 146, something like that. The house across the street from us where it shows the $25,000 land sale, that is actually right now, and I know it was built in 2017, so I don't think their basement has been finished. Ours is only a third finished, even though it was built in 83. Their house is being assessed at 218.2, the breakout on that. They have 1.8 acres of land valued at 22.9, which ours is half an acre, and ours is valued at 20,100. And then their house is being valued at 195.3, and ours is being valued at 2054.
Okay. And usually if you're assessed at 130, you won't usually sell for 155. You know what I'm saying? So it
Right,
probably
but I
wasn't
know that
assessed
that's
at that.
the assessment. I mean, if they want to look it up, they can. I do know that in Wall, I mean, a house that we purchased in the past, we did pay more than the assessment to actually have a house when we first moved to Wall. In this case, the house that we purchased here, that was not the case, but,
Vicki and Terry, so you guys are aware of why they all come out, and it was trying to try and get
You're
the,
okay.
we hadn't been out, Equalization hadn't been out there for a while, and so they finally got out there and they finally made, and they're trying to get everything up to where it's supposed to be.
I think they were out in 2016.
Right.
Or even 2015 also. I know I visited with Joe on the phone, since we've purchased the house, so they have been out.
Yeah, but prior to that, they were trying to get them up.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see this lot where taxes get appealed and they get, depending on the mood of the board, sometimes they get lowered quite a bit and then they come back out and the assessments go back up. So
I think it is partly an issue of timing. They purchased the property in 2015 prior to all of these changes being applied, and then, of course, collectively applied. And now we have information that we now know as it is. So and then the siding was redone as part of the house purchase. There was a warranty situation with the siding, so
The
it's brand
siding
new.
was changed out before we purchased it.
Okay. So
That was the prior owner, there was a warranty, the siding was faulty and it
Okay.
was peeling, so that was done when we bought the house. So we did not do that and add value to our house
Chairman?
by replacing siding.
Ms. Hadcock,
So your assessment was 177.5, then it went last year to what? 204? Is that what it was? What was last year?
Last year was 190, or, excuse me, in 16 it was 190, in 17 it was 200. And now the assessment's at 225.5.
but I think
190 to
they just said they had
200.
it, they appealed it last year, got lowered too.
200?
Didn't you appeal it last year and it got lowered too? So that's,
200?
Yeah. I don't remember what it was requested to be at, but it was settled at 200.
I put 206, but split.
guys raised by 10 grand 2 years in a row, right?
Yep.
215.
And that's also because
My
there was
opinion
a
is
board
this,
act.
you ask yourselves, okay, what's the annual cost of living increase for an annual, or for the normal type of person, 2 to 3%? We're getting an increase 12 to 15% just on our property. Where do you expect people to come up with that?
What they're doing is, sir, they haven't assessed out there for a long time, so what they're trying to do is
They were
annually.
there in
Hold on a sec,
15 and
hold on a
16.
sec. So they're trying to do it like a tier system instead of go, okay, you're worth, we believe you're worth this, but we're trying to tier you up before we just go. Some people were 100 and some people were 40, different stuff like that. Most of us, even here, are raised 20, at least 20% if we are. That's an average if you're lucky. So what they're trying to do is get you up to market value, because that's what their job is.
Is there a reason that there was such a gap in, like, the values not being increased when maybe they should have years ago? I
Well,
mean,
I think it's a combination of things that happen, assessments, market value, all those get taken into fact. There's a multitude of factors. But I think what Ms. Hadcock is trying to say, it is frustrating to see such a big jump, but it's not unusual. We've just sat through many board meetings. I had a 25% increase on one property because things have changed, market values have changed and so forth. And that's why I asked if you had appealed it last year, because you appealed it and got it lowered last year, and their assessment of what it should be. And now it seems even bigger, but in reality, you got to break, sooner or later, it's going to catch up. And I think this board has been trying to work with some of the wall residents, not making it so severe, but don't be surprised if it starts inching back up to where it should be within the next couple of years. I don't know what's going to happen today. I'm assuming there's some pens going to paper up here, but
Go ahead. Mr. Chair.
Mr. DeSanto.
Mrs. Moore, one of the things that's a little bit different about you guys' house from what I've seen with sales in Wall is that you guys have a bit of a larger home than a lot of those homes out there. And but there's not very many of them. So supply and demand in that area is driven up because of the uniqueness of the larger square footage of your home. And I think that's part of the reason also that the jump is larger for you than it is for some other people, because you have a house that's more in demand. And with Golden West doing some hiring, more families are going to be moving into your area that are going to be looking for that larger square footage home. So I hope that maybe helps you understand a little bit why the value of your home has increased more than others. $25,000 more? I don't know, but,
I think considering that there is new siding as a fact after the sale or as a result of the sale, that seems to help matters, I would think, in relationship to its overall
the
value.
siding that was on it wasn't old. It's the exact same siding that's on it right now. It's just there was a few areas that were peeling because of
I thought the
faultiness.
entire part, I thought you said, sorry.
So they probably got a jump in their assessment at some point when they replaced the siding. I don't know what year they replaced the siding. So that probably was factored in, and I don't feel like that's our issue.
Well, what I had kind of heard, there was kind of a combination, not just siding, but also there was more square footage than was originally thought from previous assessments and so forth, and once it was actually all considered into factors. So I think the board's doing some thinking. I'll wait for a motion. I think they've got.
I got a motion. I make a motion that we set the price at $218 and take it all off the building.
second.
Motion is to.
Don't ask me why I come up with that figure, because it's all in my brain.
Motion is to set it at 218, and it was seconded by Mr. DeSanto. We're getting close to where it should be.
And that's the reason why I seconded it, because I think that you guys are just gonna keep getting big ol' surprises, and you're gonna be coming here every year going, hey, wait a minute. And to avoid that from happening. Let's get
It's
somewhere
not
in the
just
middle.
one big
Yeah.
20,000 or
I'm okay
40,000.
with our taxes going up every year, but when they start jumping 15% every year, no.
Okay.
And the value of our house, I mean, I understand you guys saying, okay, there's a new development coming out there, we got people looking for homes, especially our home with 4,000 square foot, we're not looking to sell it. We're looking to live in it.
Yeah.
I mean, you think our home's worth that much? Write me a check for it. Maybe we might sell it.
Well, the whole idea of equalization is to
Lord,
be,
Jim.
is to be
What's
equal
that?
Be nice.
of all the
I just
people
lured
around. So with that, we have a motion on the floor, 218. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We have one more
Right.
property.
Okay. What number is that?
Do you want the parcel number? Or what do you-
RJ?
Hi there.
R3,
578489.
57489. It's right below there, right in the middle almost, guys. Wall Care Center.
Yep, ballpark here.
57839.
The Wall Care Center.
57489,
Where they
right in the middle.
Okay, R3. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can give it. This property, I was out and visited with the gentleman that owns it and runs it there and everything, took a look at the building and everything. We have a value of $176,600 on it for 2018. The local board lowered it to 168.9. And this has been going up a little bit each year also. I can give you some numbers from previous years. In 2016 was 159.7. 2017, we had a value of 174.4, but the local board took it back to 165,000. And then for 2018, we put 176.6 on it, and the local board took it down to 168.9. This property sold in April of 16 for 180,000. We've been under the sale price on all of those years and still are, and so forth. And so we're under the sale price on this one. They did a little bit different than the houses and so forth. So we thought that was reasonable.
Okay.
Chairman?
Nikki and Terrence, do you have you want to speak on this first before?
How you
The
get
one,
by,
what the 180 covers?
180 covers, I mean, I bought the business with business. Do I get taxed on business that I get with it? Do I get taxed on the equipment and the inventory that was in on it?
Yeah, the sales price covered a lot more
That
than
covered
just
a
the
lot more
building,
than the building and the land.
is, I guess, our point on that.
You know,
So, let's say.
I guess if you guys, I mean, as far as business goes, I bought it and it came with business. I had to pay a little more for it because it had business, repeat return business with it. It had inventory, it had equipment with it. You know, is that fair to be taxed on that?
You're saying you paid for some blue sky,
Something like
don't
that,
want to pay property tax on it.
yeah?
Correct.
It's just cutting right to the chase.
It's a little different than buying a home. I bought a business with business following it.
Yeah.
That's a good question, R3. What,
Well, I don't know what a business in Wall like that is worth. We don't assess the business part of it and so forth, just the property itself, the land and the buildings. I did look up the certificate of value here. I have it right here and everything. And in question on the bottom of that, it says in the blanks below, list any major items of personal property and their value, which were included in the total purchase price and so forth. And it's got i.e. furniture, inventory, crops, leases, franchises, whatever, and there's nothing in there. And so there's no numbers in that line on the certificate of
As far as
value. So
cost.
I didn't have anything to go by. We look at these. That's why we review the sales that we get each year and so forth. And
you know, that's all I had.
So it was sold for 180 total with merchandise in there and so forth, and it's assessed at
176.
176,6.
Yes, that was the 2018 value that we sent him.
Yeah.
Yes,
And they bought it in 16, you said, or 3?
16, April of 16, yes.
Have you made any improvements to the property or done any other business
That
to
top
it?
of the building is now more like a maroon and not
We
yellow.
painted the
Other
top
than that,
soon,
there's
yeah.
been no
But it
changes.
always had a espresso bar and all that
That
in
is
it?
no longer in
Yellow
there
is all
either.
gone.
Yeah, there's no
When-
espresso bar.
No, when we bought it, we did not want the equipment and the espresso bar, so that is no longer with it.
Just a car care.
Yep.
We have a similar, I mean, wall small, obviously, you guys know that. But there is a similar business, just kind of kitty corner from where ours is located. Which is the only thing that we have to go off of as far as trying to, you know, have a
Something
comparable
comparable
property.
that's,
Which, I don't know if you can look that up or not. That has a, what would you call it? Like a, kind of a building like ours where they do oil changes and tires and things very similar. They also have an old, double wide on the property that's taxed with that, on there, but that total property is actually, assessed at 127.8, which I know ours is newer. You know, that one's been there for a long time, but is very similar as far as, structure and what's on the property, except for we don't have a house on it.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. DeSanto.
when we appraise businesses, we only appraise the building, correct? Not the
Yeah.
lifts that are in the garage, anything like that?
No,
It's based on the building only.
we look at the building itself, the way it's, what it's built out of, the way it's constructed, we get the footage of it and so forth.
And what is the square footage of this building?
This one, we have a footage of 2,370 square feet.
Chris, do you have the history on this past the 16 sale?
What was that?
Sorry, R3, I was talking to Chris.
Oh,
If
I'm
she
sorry.
had history on this building past 16 and what it was, the land and everything was worth before. If we have some history on it.
I have a copy of it here. Would you like to see it?
Is it got, how many years back, R3?
Years past?
Yes, sir.
No.
Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Leskert.
You know, if you said that lifts, et cetera, aren't, unless they are, they can be an integral part of the building, correct? I mean, they can be property, personal, or not necessarily personal property, they can be real estate if they're attached to the building, attached to the ground, even if they're inside a building?
Some of the lifts in some of the older ones are into the concrete, into the floor. You're correct, sir.
Well, I don't know if that's the case here. But to answer Mark's question, some of them could be.
Right, if there's a pit under them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Is there a pit?
no, I get 16 nuts and I can take them all out.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. DeSanto.
How much difference is there between assessing the square footage of a home versus the square footage of a business?
How much difference?
Is there a difference in how you assess it?
No, we look at different things. The type of construction that it is, you know, whether it's wood frame, pole, steel, concrete, you know, block or poured concrete, tilt up, whatever. But the height of the building, because of the type of business that is service garage, like we have this, you know, the height of the building, they need some height in order to put a car up on a lift and that type of thing. So that makes a difference there.
Okay.
And so forth. But, you know, the heating and cooling, if there is in the building and that type of thing.
Okay.
Look at the valuations, you guys, on the buildings. Have you guys been coming in every year to lower your taxes?
This is the first year we have.
165 in 17 and then got, I'd say 140, got changed to
Yeah.
142?
Doing the remodel and other stuff.
Last year, we went to the,
Local board.
to the
The local
local
board.
board, and then the county approved that, so.
Correct. Well,
165
yeah, we
last
just
year?
let it.
They built it last year, just like their other house.
Well, the point I was making on these square footage values is, on the houses, we're between $62 and $68 a square foot where we've settled. And right now, that business would be 72 per square foot. And I don't know if that ties into anything. I mean, it may be completely
No.
an obsolete number for them.
Not really, no. Because land values are different a lot of times and that type of thing, so it just, yes.
For commercial and so forth, yeah. Just my thoughts on this is I think R3's valuation's fair.
Well, it got lowered last year in 17 to 165. If it wouldn't have gotten lowered last year, we would have been at 174.4 and it would have went to 176.6 this year, only
Yeah.
a couple $1,000 difference, 1%, basically.
Yeah. So if we keep lowering them, they're just gonna keep coming back.
I'll make a motion to leave it at 176.6.
Second. Is there any discussion? No discussion, all in favor of keeping it at the 176.6, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
One no from Perry.
Thanks, Nikki and Terry.
Thank you. Looks like the next one up is Western Hospitality Properties, and the number on that is 55699. 55699.
Last bottom of page, single paper, the single paper, Lloyd. How are you?
Nice to meet you. Talked to you on the phone the other day, by golly, but we weren't able, you were out of town, and I wasn't able to catch up with you.
Okay, what's your name, sir?
Joseph Leach.
Joseph.
Yes.
R3, do you want to go first, or Joseph, do you want to go first?
Either one.
Go ahead. Tell me what you want.
Okay, so I guess I'm here. I bought this building back in 2015. I actually was 29 years old, maybe not smart at the time. I actually saw a potential that obviously wasn't there. I've kind of struggled I can't seem to get tenants in there. I have one long-term tenant, and only about 2,900 square feet of this building is actually finished, and that's with that tenant in it. This building is actually about 18,000 square foot per floor. But none of it is finished except for, actually, if you look at that picture up there, it's on I would be on the far, I guess, the north east side of that building. But I guess the taxes are very brutal on this particular building, as it is, I think, a large square footage building, and I understand that it is a well-constructed building, but to actually, it's just, like I said, I have not been able to finish it. It's just been a brute to try to do anything with, so.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Normally with commercial buildings like that, I don't buy into that. It's not finished yet, because that's part of the tenant's deal to finish when they want to rent it.
See, and most every tenant is making me finish well, like per se Farm Bureau. I finished that. Actually, I unfortunately, again, handshake deal. I was supposed to get another tenant. I actually tried to finish a space for them. I actually spent a ton of money trying to get a space ready for them. About a week before it was ready, they said, nope, I'm sorry, too late in the year.
Yeah.
They dropped me. So maybe it's a little lesson learned from my part that maybe the tenants themselves should finish it. But although in Wall, South Dakota, it's a little different than obviously Rapid by a long way, in the fact that trying to get more people to start their own businesses is a challenge, and money is always a problem for young entrepreneurs like myself and other people like that. So fortunately, I've been able to, that was my part of the deal. I was able to hopefully help build part of that out or try to get some of it built out so I could get some tenants in there, move in ready. But again, everything takes money, and I just have not been able to have the cash flow to do it. So
Thank you, Joseph. I didn't mean to sidetrack you, but I just wanted to make that comment. R3?
Yeah, like he said, he purchased this in 2015, August of 15, for 595,000. We have a little bit more than that on it for 2018. I was over there in town, going to different places and so forth, and I had called him. We talked on the phone. He was out of town, so he wasn't able to get back there and show me the building and so forth. I did walk around it and tried to get in there, and the Farm Bureau, the guy was there and so forth, but he's on the left-hand side there about halfway down, and where you can kind of see that door going in there and everything, and that area is finished off quite decent and everything, and it makes a nice office for him. I walked around to the right-hand side of that, and it looks like you put up some sheetrock on the inside there. That was all not sheetrocked and so forth, not too long before that, but last year and so forth. There's some sheetrock, but it certainly isn't what I'd call finished either. I would agree with him there. But he's been doing some work, and possibly for those people that you were talking about, I don't know who it was for. But so a little bit more was done, and a little bit more work done on there and so forth. I've got some downtown properties just down the street here, and I got 3 or 4 of them that are a lot. This does have about 36,000 square feet, just a hair over that, 36,048, and so it's big. The second level is nothing up there yet, not finished and so forth. But I do have some sales of properties downtown and so forth here, and I can pull them up and we can look at them on the map if you'd like. We can pull up the parcel and you can see the picture of them if you would, if you would like. The first one is 7263. That's a little building downtown there. And like it shows on there,
That's not a comparable very well.
Next picture.
Next picture. R3, that's not
that's
close.
actually mine too.
Okay. Well, anyway, you must purchase this in 14 then.
That one,
2014.
yes.
450,000 for that property. I only have 4,520 square feet of it, of this building. That's.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Mr.
Did you did this by what, comparable, by the cost,
Me?
or, yeah?
This is
Or
cost.
the income?
Cost.
Can you do it by income? Can't you?
Well, there's not much rented.
No, I know. Well, doesn't that affect the value?
Well, yeah, when the income approach, it certainly would, but where there's probably one little space out of, like you said, 2,900 square feet out of 36,000, it doesn't give us a very good value out of it.
On a motel that has 200 rooms and they only rent 2 out a year. Same difference, isn't it?
Well,
wouldn't that be the income method too?
Well, there are three approaches to value. The cost, income, and comparable sales. We would feel that the income approach is not a viable approach to value at that point for that kind of property. I would look at other properties that have sold
Well, it's
more
viable
more
to
than
try
the
to
income.
compare that building to this.
So, Chris, do you have the history on this property with, or RJ, from 2015 when he bought it for 600,000? What was the assessment?
In 15?
Yep. What was assessed at,
I
RJ?
don't
Or
have
R3?
that.
Do you have, do we have it up there?
Looks like, again, in 16, it looks like we have 580,500. I don't know what 15 is, so she can look that up here.
580?
580?
580,500 is in 16.
Your hopes were still high then in 2016?
What's that?
Your hopes were still high in 2016?
You know, I kind of just I've never done something like this, I guess, where I've actually fought my taxes because I feel like, you know, sometimes it's, you know, you just pay a part of being in the community but to be honest with you, you know, for instance, that picture that you just showed of that business, yeah, it's got a small frontage on it, but the income on that is, you know, 150 times what that big wall mall is, and it's honestly obviously dragging down my cash flow on my other places, just, you know, paying that large tax bill and not having any income on that building. I guess when I went you know, a bank like First Interstate, they told me one thing, you know, when you value a property, you can have the most beautiful building on, you know, it can be the Taj Mahal, but if it don't cash flow, it's not, you know, it's not worth. If you would ask me if I would ever turn around and buy that building again, I'd absolutely not touch it. So,
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 hold on,
go ahead,
Mr.
Tim.
Santo.
I mean, Sen-
If I'm correct, this building's directly across the street from the Harley-Davidson dealership.
yes, sir. Yeah, yeah.
It's one of the nicest buildings in town.
It truly, it's a nice building. I should say, nice in it's got a beautiful shell. I mean, the outs. I mean, it was you when you seen a picture. It's a very modern looking building. It does have some issues with, you know, I'm dealing with roof leaks now, and the typical block building. They're seeping water, but the looks of the building, absolutely, it's.
Go ahead, Mr.
I appreciate more than you know, the fact that you stepped out, took a risk, and wanted to get something started in Wall. But at the same time, the county can't take it in the shorts because maybe you
made a bad
didn't
decision.
get your business plan together adequately. So what I'm going to suggest, and I'm leaning towards helping you somehow in here, but what I will suggest, and maybe you've already done so, but you've got a economic growth plan for Wall. Have you been down and talked to them about getting tenants in there?
Time and time again. Or just,
Have
you
you?
know, I'm beating my head against a wall, to be honest with you. It's, you know, Dollar General came, you know, and actually we had a big community get together. Well, the whole town practically, you know, there was only one yes vote on our city council, only one yes vote for Dollar General to come into Wall. And it was frankly pathetic, actually. This poor Dollar General representative just got booed out of our town, you know, so there was land available for them to reach, I guess. And, you know, for me looking in, I think that obviously I'm a part of that community. I want our community to grow.
You bet.
So I turned around and offered him, you know, just a swell deal to get. I said, what better? I mean, they were putting him off the beaten path, and I said, well, what's better than Main Street Wall? You know, all that. I mean, you got 25,000 cars a day, obviously, in traffic, and they turned up their nose at me too. So I just
Okay.
honestly.
Joseph, I think we got enough information. I think the Wall Board, local board, what their recommendation was 56.3 for land and 300 for building, to make it 356.3. R3's assessment is 623,700. And I think the board has enough information to make a good choice, I think.
I'll make a recommendation.
Ms. Hadcock.
Last year's 585, 580,500.
That's where I would have been leaning to.
So 56.3, and then the difference of that with the
So last year's Ms. Hadcock is 580,
580,500.
500.
The numbers are, with land is 56.3.
Yes, sir.
And the improvements are 524,200.
Okay.
Is that what you come up with, R3?
No, that's what
That's what
she
she
would want.
comes up with?
Yes,
Okay,
that's correct, sir.
okay. Is there a second to her
Second.
motion? Seconded by DeSanto. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Well, Mr. Farabee.
Obviously, I don't know a whole lot about the appraisal world and the laws that you folks have to follow, but I'm still a bit puzzled by what Commissioner Buskerud was talking about, his income approach. Obviously, there's no income here, and is that, I know I heard you say that's not a viable option for taxing, but I guess the practical world, the fair world, I think we're probably not doing justice to this guy. Taxes without any income, and I know that's not our job to provide income, but at the same time, we have to, one of our approaches is income, and Commissioner Buskerud mentioned it, and there's no income. So are we out of line by factoring that in?
That's one approach to value. It doesn't work on this property like this and so forth because of only one tenant in there like that. You know, it's just when we do an income approach, we would use what the potential gross income is on a property. That's what you start out with, the income approach, is a potential gross income, and that would be of the entire building. And so, I don't know, what's the State Farm guy pay for rent in his 2,900 square feet?
Well, he does not pay rent right now, so he did a long-term lease and in turn for paying for part of the down payment on the building, so I don't receive any rent from him.
And without information and that type of thing, the income approach is just not viable.
Chairman.
Mr. Chair.
Hold on, that.
Follow-up, please. You see, I haven't read the statutes, obviously, and so I'm relying on you folks that do this day in and day out. Are we, the government, bound tight enough where we don't have enough discretion to consider this situation? Are the statutes that tight that we can't make allowances?
No, it's not, but we actually have a sale on this property in 2015 of $595,000. You know, that's a sale of the property and so forth. An income approach, what would it come out with, $40,000 or something on this? I don't know, I haven't calculated that out, but I mean, you know, that wouldn't be correct either.
Okay, we got a couple more
Go ahead,
speakers.
Mark.
Mark DeSanto.
One of the reasons that I would fear going with an income approach on this, and as R3 said, an income approach starts with what could you produce an income from this piece of property. Right. But the reason that I would be very hesitant to go with the income approach, George, is because right now he may only be, say, making $2,900 a month off of the rent for that place. But if next week some business rolls into town and says, we want the whole thing, he could possibly he could have the potential of making
6 times.
$50,000 a month off of the place. So the other problem is that if we go with the income approach with his business, we're going to have other businesses coming in here that make a lot of money per square foot going, whoa, wait a minute, you're not going to turn around and do the income approach on us, are you? And so that is where I'd be worried about using the income approach here. I mean, I want to help you because I don't want to see you have to sell. I want to see you be successful. But at the same time, I don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot by doing something completely and totally
Thanks. Thanks,
off
Mark.
scale, so
I'll,
to speak.
I'll remind everybody, we do have a motion on the floor.
I'm good.
You're good? Anybody else?
I'll
Mr. Busker, I think,
I do. Your example is good for the income approach, and however, if I get charged, my house is $200,000. That's a week from now. A week after they assessed it, I built a swimming pool and I put an elevator in. I'm not going to get taxed for that till next year either. So
Good point.
but
We dropped it
I'm
down.
trying to help the young man. But the income approach, it's been a while since I've done that stuff, but I thought you really should be using the sales approach, the income approach, and the comparison, the sales, and the cost approach, and reconciling them. And because they theoretically should be fairly close in where you're at on them. So,
Guys.
and I agree with R3. The income approach here just won't work.
And you dropped him
You
43,000.
couldn't reconcile it.
And you dropped him 43,200. So I think you did a good.
I don't want to
sales.
drive the kid into bankruptcy either.
I think that's a pretty good drop for a business building.
Mr. Farabee.
One more comment. Right now, what's that place worth? What would that place bring in the market?
He paid $580 for it. It's assessed at.
Talking right
Paid
now,
$595 for it in 2015.
what do you suppose it'd bring on the market?
I actually tried to sell it to the Farm Bureau guy for $400 to pay off my debt, and he wouldn't even accept it. I mean, I couldn't even sell it for $400. I actually put it on the market recently, and I couldn't even get takers at $400 just to try to, get debt free and walk away from it because it's like I said, I can't get nobody in there. So
All else fails is market value, and if it's not sellable, it's not worth anything.
Okay, folks, there is a motion on the floor for the 580 from last year's tax assessment. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries with one no. So what happened is it got reduced from the 623.7 down to the 585.
okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
585 even.
580 or 500.
580,500, right?
I guess what's left then is to act on the STIP list and the no change list for this afternoon.
No way.
Make a motion to approve the wall afternoon session of 4/19/18 and on the appointment or reinstate assessed value list and the stipulations list as presented, other than the ones we have changed by motion.
There we go.
What Ron said, second.
Yeah. Was moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Can I make one more comment?
Ask my wife.
Sure.
I just want to comment that I'm pretty sure we have in our office the best staff in the county, from the office staff who work their tails off this time of year and the appraisers. They really put a lot into this. They really try and come up with the right answers. We have a lot of people coming in. Last year we had over 1,000. This year, quite a bit less than that. And we talk to a lot of people. We look at a lot of houses. We make a lot of adjustments in what we can see. And those that come in here, they feel pretty strongly about. And I just appreciate your consideration. You guys been fantastic, but I just want to compliment our staff because they really work hard.
You
Thanks,
bet.
Gordy.
They do.
I agree.